Okay, we're recording. So welcome. This is Weekday Somatics 7. Okay. So let's start by sitting, if that's comfortable for you. And if it's not, then don't do that. Let me briefly remind myself, and maybe you, of my intention with these weekday somatic explorations or inquiries. My intention is for us to explore and discover possibilities through direct experience. So we can discover these possibilities by becoming aware of, well, let me put that in first person. I can discover these possibilities by becoming aware of my habits, my mechanical reactivity. Now that seems, to me, that seems to be pretty different than the majority of what I've been taught for how to be happy. Okay, most of what I've been taught is that I should try harder. I need to add something. I need to learn a new skill. I need to become stronger. I need to work on my thinking. I need to improve my thinking. I need to do creative visualization, whatever. A lot of different remedies that are proposed out there, and maybe they have merit, or maybe not. I'm not going to comment on that here, but what all of them have in common is that it's adding something. And what my intention is for us with this exploration, with these explorations, is that we're discovering what it is that we're already doing, the mechanical habits, so that we have this new possibility of being unburdened, right? So hopefully that makes sense. If I'm going through my life and I'm making effort, and that effort is unnecessary, and that effort does not contribute to my desire in life, it's not making a positive contribution, then when I become aware of that, I have this new possibility of not doing that. It wasn't possible before because I wasn't aware of it. Now that I become aware of it, I don't need to do that. When I don't need to do that, then I'm freed of that burden. All of the energy that I had been foolishly, unconsciously, mechanically investing into unhelpful strain is freed up. Hopefully that makes sense. Of course, the proof is in the pudding, as we say in English. So let's see what happens, okay? So we're sitting, if that's comfortable, and I'm going to close my eyes. If that's comfortable for you, close your eyes. And just tune into the somatic experience. So what I mean by that is this There's a felt sense, and this felt sense is interfacing with I'll say these other aspects of myself, other aspects of my experience. So there are thoughts. The somatic experience is interfacing with those thoughts. This is an artificial distinction, just so that's clear, but it's maybe it's a helpful helpful distinction, just to even though artificial, just so that we can start to get clear on these things. So don't take it too literally, but just take a look and see how your felt sense, and you may not know what I'm talking about. That's okay. Don't strain to try and figure it out. Just these are just pointers. So there's a felt sense, and that's interfacing with my thinking. So what do I mean by that? Well, there's this felt sense. Now I don't know what the meaning of this felt sense is. In fact, why on earth do I even assume that it has any meaning beyond just simply what it is? But I do, don't I? I assume that it means something. So it's interfacing with these thoughts. These thoughts propose all kinds of meanings. Now, I might not be aware of that until I am. So that's what this opportunity is just to start to explore the direct experience and notice what's actually happening is there's a felt sense. And then there are thoughts that tell me what this felt sense signifies, what the meaning of it is. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it scary? Is it safe? So the thoughts tell me all kinds of things, propose all kinds of ideas about what the felt sense might mean or signify. By just being present to the experience here without indulging my habits of trying to figure it out, trying to adjust or fix it or anything, then I just become aware of that. I become aware that there's a felt sense. That felt sense simply is. It's just there is a felt sense. I don't know what it actually means. I have thoughts that tell me what it might mean. So through this exploration, which I'm actively participating in presently, and I'm inviting you to actively participate in, is just to take a look, just to see through this direct inquiry that I have a felt sense, I have thoughts about it, but I don't know that those thoughts are the truth. I don't actually know that they are the truth. The only evidence that I have are these other aspects of my experience which come together in this kind of constellation to produce a particular state that's familiar to me. So what else does this somatic experience interface with? Well, also it interfaces with images. I'm using the word image. Maybe that's going to be a good word for you, maybe not. So if it's not a good word, then forget about it. Just see what it is that I'm pointing to. So I have this felt sense, and then there are images that present themselves, again, trying to explain the significance of this felt sense. trying to give meaning to it. So the images might be images of my body, images of my body and the space in which this body is existing. So the images might, I'll give you a specific example just here from my experience. And again, please, as I'm speaking, because I do a lot of speaking, but really just take a look for yourself at your own experience. So I noticed that I have an image of as I'm sitting here. So I'm sitting on the floor in a cross-legged position, and this image that presents itself proposes that I'm slightly lopsided. It's really it's really all in this case. That's all the image is really proposing. To be honest, when I really look at it, I don't know even which way I'm lopsided. All I know is this image proposes some kind of lopsidedness. So again, it's just that there's this image overlay that proposes some kind of meaning or significance to the felt sense. So they come together, the felt sense, the thoughts, the images form this constellation that's a familiar state. This is a state that I call me. What else? Again, these are artificial distinctions, but they're like teaching, learning, exploratory kinds of distinctions that can be helpful if we don't take them too seriously, but just as pointers to take a look. Also, the somatic experience is interfacing with memory. Because I have to reference something from the past to have contrast to be able to say anything about this present experience. What would lopsided even mean if I don't have some kind of past reference of something that's not lopsided? So there's also memory. And the memory could be just a general sense of myself that's being drawn from the past, or it could be specific episodic memories. That's less likely, but it certainly could be the case. I say it's less likely. That's not true, actually. It really depends on you, what kind of inquiry you've done. So if you've inquired a great deal into memory, then maybe there'll be less of it. Just because, at least my experience is, I've done a lot of inquiry into memory. I've really, it's easier for me to presently, that's a funny way to put it, but it's presently fairly easy for me to recognize the lack of substance or independent reality of memory. But that was not always the case. I used to struggle a lot with memory, a lot of memory that I perceived to be painful. So it depends on you, what a lot of factors. But so these are some of the things that come together. There probably are others that we could distinguish, but I won't take more time with that right now. So we can just start to recognize there's this direct experience, this felt sense, the somatic experience. And then there's all of the other things that come together in a constellation. And I have to strain to maintain all of that. And the question that I'm very curious about is, Why should I do that? Is there a good reason to do that? Now, in order to find out if there's a good reason, uh, one way is to actually be willing to let go of the effort and the strain, to let it all fall apart, to let the constellation fall apart, and to just remain with the direct experience and the somatic experience and let the rest of it come and go. And I find that there is a palpable stillness that I can become more and more attuned to, that's like a thread that runs through this somatic experience. And the more that I just remain with it, the more I become anchored in that stillness. And I perceive that anchoring in uh, a very, it's a, like I use the word again, it's palpable. I can really feel it. Okay. Now, my let's do this. Let's make this a little bit more active today. It's nice to do a lot of different variations, sometimes active, sometimes not. And so today, let's see if we can do a little bit more active inquiry. So what I'd like to explore is this, we could call it, what would we call this? This is like, I don't know what that is, flexion of the, whatever, we don't need to call it anything. We're going to, I want you to imagine that you are wanting to look at your belly button. So you don't need to do anything yet. You don't need to actually move, but I just imagine that you have a desire to look at your belly button. And imagine, without actually moving, just imagine how you would do that. How would you look at your belly button? Where would that activity, where would that action originate from? Where would you feel it? How would you feel it? What would it be like? And then with your eyes open or closed, I'm going to do it with my eyes closed, but you can do it however you wish. Actually explore that possibility of moving your body in such a way that you could get a better view of your belly button. So what would that be? Really slowly explore that. And don't, keep it really, really subtle. Don't double over. Just make it a subtle exploration of moving in such a way that you might be able to get a better view of your own belly button. And then just pause where you are, if you're in a position where you would be having a better view of your belly button than if you were totally upright. And just allow yourself, if this is too strenuous, ease up. Don't make it strenuous. Let it be really gentle and light. So I should clarify, just pause here if that's okay for you. Otherwise, do whatever you need to do to take care of yourself. And notice where you are making any unnecessary effort. So what I like to do is open to the possibility, and I'll invite you to this now, open to the possibility that this could be effortless and pleasurable. So maybe you notice something like I notice. I notice that I have these habits of strain. I notice something in my right groin a little bit in the left uh, clavicle, collarbone area. Doesn't matter specifically where they are. These are just, I'm just telling you my experience. Uh, and my habit is to associate that experience with this posture or this movement. But I'm curious now, do those experiences, whatever it is I'm doing there, does that really contribute in a positive way to this posture, to my intention? If I just want to be able to get a better view of my belly button, are those sensations and that effort contributing in a positive way? Are they helping? And like I say, I'm interested, I'm very curious in this possibility of this being effortless and pleasurable. So what I do, and I'm inviting you to do, is just see if it's possible to soften. Wherever I notice the strain, the tension, the effort, just see if it's possible to soften. Do I need to do it? Could I just not do that? Can I allow the tongue to be resting? Can I allow my forehead to be soft rather than squeezing? Okay, and then let's slowly, maintaining the same softness and awareness, move toward upright. Now, don't don't just move back into the same position that you started from. Slowly come to upright. Now, how might I know if I'm upright? If I'm if I'm not consulting my memory, images, or thoughts, how would I know? And well, maybe the obvious answer, at least, is maybe I don't know. Or at the very least, whatever knowing is possible, it comes from somewhere else. It doesn't come from that constellation of habit. It doesn't come from the past. It has to come from somewhere else. So let me just be open to that. Just be open to receiving that if it's available. And if it's not available, then fine. I mean, this is certainly not knowing whether I'm upright is no worse than knowing that I'm not quite upright and that something's off and then struggling to try and figure it out and fix it. Okay, so let's try exploring that. I say try, that's a terrible word. Let's just explore that. Let's explore that same movement several more times. Do it at your own pace. I would encourage that pace to be a slow pace, but you do whatever you need to do. Don't strain, don't exaggerate, just let it be slow and gentle and subtle. And see what happens. See what you might notice. So we're just exploring this possibility of moving in a way that we're able to get a better view, in theory, of our belly button. And then slowly coming to upright as restfully as possible. So if I notice, for example, well, I'll give you the specific example that I notice. I notice a kind of numbness or lack of clarity in the mid back region. Kind of numb but uncomfortable. There's it's associated with a kind of low-level anxiety, fear, frustration. So I'm curious about that, and I'm curious to remain as soft as possible, as open as possible, and as sensitive as possible in that area, and to then become aware of whatever I become aware of. So in my case, I find that my upper abdomen, I seem to have a habit of remaining tense in the upper abdomen, and then that's countered by something in the mid to upper back. So if I keep the mid to upper back sensitive and soft, changes the experience of my upper abdomen. So I feel different. I feel very different, and the images and the thoughts are very different. The images and thoughts are suggesting that whatever I'm doing is really weird. Images and thoughts suggest get back to the familiar. Just do whatever you usually do. Why are you doing this nonsense here? This isn't going to help. But I just keep exploring, and maybe we all could notice. Certainly I'm noticing that I can allow for this movement to be a little bit larger, not extreme, but just slightly larger. That it's a larger movement, but it's a larger movement that I'm doing with increasing confidence. So I'm not flinging myself into anything. And certainly I'm not just doing what I habitually do, because this feels unfamiliar. This is different. But I'm becoming more familiar with the unfamiliar. Now, as I do this, I notice more sensation that I was previously unaware of. And I notice habits, compulsions to try and adjust, like, for example, to pull my shoulder blades back. I feel a compulsion to pull the shoulder blades back to adjust the shoulders. But what I'm doing, and I'm inviting you to do, is don't indulge any habit mechanically. So there's a sensation. This is the somatic experience, the felt sense. And then layered on that, there are these thoughts, images, and memories that say, hey, pull the shoulder blades back. This is wrong, what you're doing. It's wrong. The shoulders are wrong. Get them in the right position, the familiar position. But I'm just pausing, and I notice is there any unnecessary strain or effort that I can become aware of? So if the shoulder blades actually need to be pulled back, I want to become aware of that through some means that's not my habitual way. And maybe what I discover is there's no actual evidence that the shoulder blades need to be pulled back. Now, that's just an example from my experience. You may notice something seemingly very different, but the same kind of inquiry, the same method of inquiry applies. So just notice where you have a compulsive habit to adjust mechanically. You'll notice probably that you have a lot of tics, TICS, like things that you do, movements that you do unconsciously, habitually, mechanically. So I'm noticing this is just, it's getting stranger and stranger. It really is bizarre now. Now I feel like I get these images and these thoughts, and they tell me I must, well, first of all, I must look really weird. What will other people think of me if I'm appearing like this? And secondly, that there's something just wrong about this. There's got to be something wrong. My conditioned mind is certain there's something wrong, but I just stay with it. I don't adjust. I don't make any movement except for this very simple conscious movement of moving in the direction of looking at my belly button and then coming to upright. But otherwise, I'm not making any other movements, no compulsive movements. If there's a habit, a compulsion to make an adjustment, to, in quotes, get comfortable, I just pause and notice, is it actually true? So there's an unfamiliar experience, unfamiliar sensation. The images, the thoughts, the memories suggest something about this experience. When I compulsively indulge those habits of adjusting, I am validating the reality and truth of those habits. Unfortunately, those habits are delusional and painful. So this exploration is just to see that, to recognize that these things that I do habitually in the name of seeking comfort do not provide comfort. They're based on some incorrect assumptions. If I just pause and stay with the unfamiliar sensation and notice, where am I making unnecessary effort? Eventually, something shifts. Now, whatever it is that shifts is probably going to be, almost certainly, it will not be what I think needs to shift, because I've been looking in the wrong direction for the shift. I've been trying to force the shift according to my ideas of what it should be based on mechanical memory, which, by the way, the past was never satisfying. So I'm a fool to just mechanically repeat the same thing and expect that it will be better. Okay, so we're over the 30-minute mark, so let's start to wrap this up. And as we start to close this inquiry exploration, let's see how gentle we can allow the transition to be. So I want to notice my habit of transitioning, I'll use a loaded word, violently. Sudden transition. It's my habit. My habit is to leap from one posture to another without awareness of the transition. The transition, though, must be, it has to be a smooth, fluid, analog transition versus a digital transition. So my habit of violent, rapid, unconscious transition feeds into my delusion of separation. So I'm curious to then explore this possibility of smooth, conscious transition where I'm just present to the experience as it's happening. So I'm noticing, like, how would I know when I'm done with the inquiry? Like I must do something habitually to signify that I'm done, kind of jerk myself into my habitual quote unquote upright position, which isn't truly upright at all. It's a painful contortion. And then I maybe alter my breathing, sigh, a sigh of relief, and say, I'm done. Done with that. Done with my hard work today. But can I just be aware and if the eyes are closed, let's just explore, as we did yesterday, this possibility of allowing the eyes to open very smoothly. So I have to then become aware of how I'm making unnecessary effort around the eyes, squeezing, using effort and parts of the body that are not necessary to be using, just to allow the eyelids to be comfortably closed. Instead, I'm squeezing them shut somehow. So if I want a smooth transition from closed eyes to open eyes, I have to become aware of that unnecessary effort, and I have to soften that, allow my forehead to be soft, and allow the corners of the eyes to be soft, and allow the cheeks to be soft. And then explore the direction, just a direction of opening the eyelids. So I'm not opening them yet, but I'm just starting to imagine that I might open them, and I'm making these, maybe we could say, micro movements just to see what can I open the eyelids now without it being a jerky, violent thing where I'm fighting and struggling against myself. Can it be smooth, light, effortless, pleasurable? So I'm just starting to make micro movements to explore that possibility. These micro movements might reveal where I'm still squeezing, where I'm still making unnecessary effort against my own intention. I want to open, my intention is to open the eyelids, but I'm squeezing them closed. I'm squeezing around the eyes. So these micro movements reveal where I'm making the squeezing effort. And then can I just continue to allow that to become lighter and gentler? And then maybe I start to notice that I can float the eyelids open really slowly and smoothly. So slowly allowing them to open. For those who are here live, please don't rush, take your time. And as you're taking your time with that, I'm going to end the recording of the practical somatic inquiry for today. For those who are here live, we'll stay on for the sharing and Q&A. For those who are watching this on YouTube or wherever else you might be watching it, thanks for joining me. I'll see you next time.